In 2002, a rapper was found naked staggering through the streets, staring at the sky screaming. He was covered in human blood, holding a human lung in his hands, and it seemed to have a chunk missing. When he was taken into police custody, they performed a medical examination on his stomach, and inside of his stomach, they found pieces of human tissue. This case begins on April the 10th, 2002 in Los Angeles, California. The rapper in question was a man named Antron Singleton. He was born in Texas on September the 15th, 1973, and from the young age of 7, he had a keen interest and passion for writing and reading poetry, and he was quite talented too. As he grew older, he became influenced by the emerging hip-hop culture, and at around 17 years old, he decided that he wanted to try his hand at rap, and he began a career in the genre. His first stage name was G Spade, but due to being 6'7", he was given a new name, Big Lurch, inspired by the character from the Addams Family. As he began getting a name for himself in rap, he started working with artists such as RBL Posse, Sibo, and E40. But just as he got his foot in the door, Tupac and Biggie had died, the two big artists in rap that pushed the genre into the mainstream. Their deaths resulted in the genre becoming somewhat unstable and uncertain. But soon, Eminem had emerged on the scene, and became incredibly popular very quickly, with songs about killing his ex-wife Kim Mathers. Big Lurch was heavily influenced by this after seeing his popularity skyrocket. So, he went in the direction of horrorcore, or horror rap, and as the name suggests, its themes contained extreme violence and aggression. And it was this that prosecutors would later say was a telling sign of what was in his mind. Big Lurch rapped about some pretty dark topics, and often included serial killers such as Jeffrey Dahmer and horror movie villains like Freddy and Jason in his lyrics. On the 16th of September 2000, just one day after his 24th birthday, he collided with a drunk driver that hit his car at some serious force. The impact of the collision broke his neck, and resulted in him being in excruciating pain. At the hospital, they had to keep him heavily sedated to keep the pain at bay, and when he was finally discharged, his pain had not yet subsided, so he took matters into his own hands, and he began to use PCP as a painkiller. The only thing is that PCP is a drug known to cause hallucinations, distorted visions and sounds, but it can also make one have violent outbursts too. But what started out as a pain relief soon turned into a terrible habit that would lead him to do something truly awful. Big Lurch would participate in week-long benders and stay high for weeks at a time, and was often in really bad delusional states. But during one particular session on the drug, things got seriously bad. At the end of April 2002, Big Lurch woke up from a 2-week PCP-induced coma. He was asked if he remembered anything. Lurch said the last thing he remembered was thinking that the world was going to end and that he needed to find and kill the devil. He was then told the disturbing reality of what he had done before slipping into the coma. What I'm about to share is incredibly disturbing, so I do warn you before I proceed. The official story is that on April the 10th, 2002, Big Lurch was partying with friends at his apartment. Lurch had 2 housemates, Thomas Moore, who was a known criminal and gangster, and Tanisha Isaias. According to Thomas Moore, he and Big Lurch were in the apartment smoking PCP. A group of the friends in the apartment partying also joined in, and Big Lurch would later say that they kept passing him the pipe. At some point, Big Lurch kicked everybody out of the apartment, apart from him and Tanisha. So, he and Tanisha were alone. It's said that Lurch came behind her and picked up a child scooter that belonged to one of Tanisha's children. He then swung it over the back of her head, and she fell to the floor. Big Lurch then got on top of her with a knife. He then plunged it into her chest, creating a cavity. He then put his hands into the hole and opened up her skin. He then pulled her ribcage apart, exposing her internal organs. After he did this, he ripped out one of her lungs and plunged a 3-inch blade into her shoulder blade. Teeth marks were found on her face and body too. It wasn't until later on, when Tanisha's friend Alyssa came over to visit, that she found her friend dismembered on the floor with her internal organs exposed. Big Lurch had no recollection of this ever occurring, but it was soon after this when the police found him naked, covered in blood, screaming at the sky. The trial began, and the prosecutors received special access